Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Nishit Kumar, and with me is Reshma Tiwari, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds meeting to review COVID-19 and vaccination situation in the country. Number of deaths worldwide due to COVID-19 pandemic surpasses 3 million. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar speaks to his Afghanistan counterpart Mohammad Hanif Atmar, says India will stand with the people of Afghanistan. US and Japan reaffirm commitment to work with Quad partners to ensure free and open Indo-Pacific. Raul Castro steps down as Cuban Communist Party chief, signals change in leadership to younger generation. And in IPL cricket, Mumbai Indians take on Sunrisers Hyderabad in Chennai. As the number of COVID cases are on the rise again, we appeal to our listeners not to lower the guard, follow all the precautions, and all those above 45 years to get vaccinated without any hesitation. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask. Maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing and focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that together India had defeated COVID last year and India can do it again with the same principles but faster speed and coordination. Mr. Modi said this while chairing a meeting this evening to review the status of preparedness to handle the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Various aspects relating to medicines, oxygen, ventilators and vaccination were discussed during the meeting. Mr. Modi stressed that there is no substitute to testing, tracking and treatment. He said early testing and proper tracking remains key to reduce mortality. The Prime Minister said that local administrations need to be proactive and sensitive to people's concerns. Mr. Modi directed that close coordination with states must be ensured in handling the pandemic. He said that all necessary measures must be taken to ramp up the availability of hospital beds for COVID patients. The Prime Minister also directed that additional supply of beds through temporary hospitals and isolation centres should be ensured. Mr. Modi also spoke about the need to utilize the full potential of India's pharmaceutical industry to meet the rising demand of various medicines. He reviewed the status of supply of remdesivir and other medicines. The Prime Minister was briefed on the actions taken to address the issue of availability of remdesivir. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan had exhorted the states to plan in advance the increase of COVID hospitals, beds with oxygen supply facility and other relevant infrastructure to deal with the surge in COVID cases. He requested the states to give special focus on the prominent 5 to 6 cities in their administration, map medical colleges to either these cities or adjoining 2 to 3 districts. Dr. Vardhan chaired a high-level review meeting with the health ministers of 11 states and union territories to review measures taken by them for prevention, containment and management of the recent surge in COVID-19. These states include Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Kerala, West Bengal, Delhi, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. Detailing the number of beneficiaries vaccinated in each targeted segment of the population, Dr. Harshvardhan also addressed the perceived issue of vaccine shortage. He said the total consumption of vaccine so far, including wastage, has been approximately 12 crore 57 lakh 18,000 doses against the 14 crore 15 lakh doses provided by the centers to the states. The national capital Delhi is under weekend curfew in view of the surge in COVID-19 cases. It came into force from 10 p.m. yesterday. The weekend curfew will be lifted at 5 a.m. on Monday. Only essential services are exempted from the restrictions. Police pickets have been placed at various places in the city for checking vehicles and movement of people. Earlier, a 7-hour night curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. was imposed in Delhi, which will remain there in the weekdays till the 30th of this month. Delhi Police has started a helpline to facilitate the movement pass for eligible persons. The helpline number is 011 234 69900. In case persons involved in essential services face any difficulty or inconvenience in getting their movement passes from police authorities or seek any clarifications, they can call for assistance on this number. During the curfew, movement of persons for marriage-related gatherings up to 50 persons and funeral-related gatherings up to 20 persons will continue to be allowed. Government officials involved in emergency services like health, police, fire and emergency services as well as all other essential services are allowed on production of valid identity cards. All private medical personnel will also be allowed. People coming from or going to airports, railway stations and bus stations have been exempted from production of valid tickets.
The number of people who have died worldwide in the COVID-19 pandemic has surpassed 3 million. According to Johns Hopkins University, almost 140 million cases have been recorded since the pandemic began. According to media reports, the last week saw an average of 12,000 deaths a day reported around the world. Bangladesh reported 101 deaths for the second consecutive day, even as hard lockdown in the country entered its fourth day on Saturday. This is the highest death toll 2 days in a row since the first corona-positive case was reported in Bangladesh on March 8th last year. With this, the COVID-19 death toll in the country has gone up to 10,283. The strict lockdown in the country entered its fourth day on Saturday. In the capital city of Dhaka, the impact of the lockdown was visible with very few vehicles and people seen on the roads. Shops were also closed. However, compared to Friday, the number of vehicles and people on the road was larger on Saturday. Police were seen enforcing the lockdown at various places in the town. The World Health Organization (WHO) has said the number of new COVID-19 cases per week worldwide has nearly doubled over the past 2 months, approaching the highest infection rate seen so far during the pandemic. At a special ministerial meeting yesterday, the WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said cases and deaths are continuing to increase at worrying rates. He said some countries that had previously avoided widespread transmission are now seeing steep increases in infections. He attributed the alarming increase to rapidly spreading variants, inconsistent use and premature easing of public health measures, fatigue of populations with social restrictions and dramatic inequity in vaccine coverage. The WHO chief said vaccine equity is a challenge of the time, and as WHO statistics have shown, that of more than 832 million vaccine doses that have been administered globally, over 82% have gone to high or upper middle income countries, while low income countries have received just 0.2%. This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
3 steps to stay protected and stay safe from COVID-19. Wear face mask, 2 gaz ki duri to maintain social distancing, maintain hand and face hygiene.
U.S. President Joe Biden has said that getting the pandemic under control and helping friends and neighbors throughout the Indo-Pacific region to recover is on the top of his agenda. Speaking at a joint press conference with Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, remarked on the Quad partnership.
Earlier this year, we, together with India and Australia, launched the landmark Quad Vaccine Partnership to expand the manufacturing of COVID-19 vaccines and assist countries throughout the region with vaccination efforts. And we agreed to enhance our support for global vaccination efforts through the ACT Accelerator and COVID Facility. We're also going to do more beyond this pandemic to advance longer-term goals for health security, reform of the World Health Organization, and establishing a new partnership on health security to build better preparedness for the next pandemic, because there will be others.
Prime Minister Suga said that the two leaders held serious talks on China's influence over the Indo-Pacific and the world at large. They said that they agreed to oppose any attempts to change the status quo by force or coercion in the East and South China Seas and intimidation of others in the region. Mr. Suga added that Japan and the U.S. will work with partners including India to promote the vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific with concrete efforts. In another development, Japan has urged Iran to comply with the JCPOA and refrain from provocative measures that undermine the agreement. Japan was referring to Iran's decision to enrich uranium up to 60%. On Tuesday, Iran informed the International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA) that it would start producing enriched uranium up to 60%. In a statement, Japan said it supports the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, which contributes to the international non-proliferation regime and thereby to the stability of the Middle East. 2 Russian warships transited the Bosphorus en route to the Black Sea today, and 15 smaller vessels completed a transfer to the sea as Moscow beefs up its naval presence at a time of tense relations with the western Ukraine. The reinforcement coincides with a huge buildup of Russian troops near Ukraine, something Moscow calls a temporary defensive exercise, and follows an escalation in fighting in eastern Ukraine between Russian-backed separatists and Ukrainian government forces. Moscow expelled 10 American diplomats yesterday in retaliation for the expulsion of the same number of Russian diplomats from the United States over alleged malign activity.
External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, has said he is deeply shocked by the shooting incident at FedEx facility in Indianapolis in the USA. He said the victims include persons of Indian American Sikh community, and Indian consulate in Chicago is in touch with the mayor and local authorities in Indianapolis as well as the community leaders. He added that the government will render all possible assistance. 4 members reportedly belonging to the Sikh religious community were killed in a shooting incident at a FedEx facility in Indianapolis on Thursday that claimed the lives of 8 workers. Meanwhile, President of the United States, Joe Biden, took a series of executive actions last week to reduce what he called the epidemic of gun violence. A report.
President Biden has announced a slew of executive actions to put in place checks to reduce and prevent instances of gun violence in the country. On Thursday, Mr. Biden announced measures to rein in the proliferation of so-called ghost guns. Ghost guns are unlicensed, homemade, build-it-yourself guns which contain directions on how to self-assemble the weapon. The president said that since they have no serial numbers, they cannot be traced at crime scenes. The second measure announced by Mr. Biden is to ask the Justice Department to release a new annual report on firearms trafficking. Thirdly, the president said that he wants to ensure that pistols modified with stabilizing braces are treated with greater seriousness. The modification makes pistols more accurate than a mini rifle. These are 3 of a slew of measures announced by President Biden as he rallies the U.S. Senate to pass gun control legislations. The Constitution of the USA, through its Second Amendment, provides American citizens the right to bear arms. However, President Biden has said that no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. From the very beginning that the Second Amendment existed, he said, certain people weren't allowed to have weapons. Mr. Biden said that 106 people die every day in the U.S. from gun violence. For World News, Prashant Kumar Sinha.
India has expressed deep concern about the increase in violence and targeted killings in Afghanistan and has called for an immediate and comprehensive ceasefire. The ministry was responding to media queries on the announcement by the U.S. of withdrawal of its troops from Afghanistan. The ministry in a statement noted the decision of the United States to withdraw its troops from Afghanistan and to end its military operations there. It added that it is closely following the ongoing intra-Afghan peace process. India is of the view that an Afghan peace process should be Afghan-led, Afghan-owned and Afghan-controlled. Any political settlement must be inclusive and should preserve the socio-economic and political gains of the past 19 years. India supports a united, democratic and sovereign Afghanistan.
Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Saturday had a telephonic conversation with Foreign Minister of Afghanistan, Mohammad Hanif Atmar, on recent developments. During the conversation, the ministers discussed the role of neighbors in the Afghan peace process. In a tweet, Dr. Jaishankar said India will stand with the people of Afghanistan. Mr. Atmar said both discussed post-withdrawal cooperation with the U.S. and international allies and the growing partnership with neighbors and regional partners, including valued friend India. Dr. Jaishankar on Friday at the Raisina Dialogue 2021 affirmed that India will do whatever it is in her power to ensure protection of Afghanistan's interests.
Through our development projects, And I'm sure Dr. Mahib will bear me out. I think in all the 34 Afghan provinces, we have development projects of some kind. I think in the last 20 years, we have demonstrated through our actions and projects on the ground what our real feelings are for Afghanistan. So we believe today that there is goodwill for us, that there is a strong Indo-Afghan friendship. And believe me, we really wish the people of Afghanistan well. And we will do whatever is in our power, in our influence, in relationship with other neighbors to ensure that, what is the best interest of the Afghan people is ensured.
External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, will visit Abu Dhabi on Sunday at the invitation of his counterpart. In a tweet, spokesperson of the External Affairs Ministry, Mr. Arindam Bagchi, said that the discussions will focus on economic cooperation and community welfare. Raul Castro confirmed he was handing over the leadership of the Cuban Communist Party to a younger generation at its Congress on Friday. The move ended 6 decades of rule by himself and the older brother Fidel. He already handed over the presidency in 2018 to protege Miguel Diaz-Canel, 60, who ran the party in 2 provinces before joining the national government. In a speech opening the 4-day event, Castro, 89, said the new leadership would be party loyalists with decades of experience working their way up the ranks and were full of passion and anti-imperialist spirit. The transition comes as Cuba faces the worst economic crisis since the collapse of the former benefactor, the Soviet Union, while there are signs of growing frustration, especially among the younger Cubans.
The United States and the UK strongly condemned the arrest of pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong on Friday. In separate statements on Saturday, both countries expressed disapprobation of the Hong Kong authorities' decision to target leading pro-democracy figures for prosecution. The Foreign Office of the UK said that the actions were unacceptable and must stop. It added that the right to peaceful protest is fundamental to Hong Kong's way of life, and it was protected in both the Joint Declaration and the Basic Law, and it should be upheld. The Sino-British Joint Declaration is a binding international agreement which accords Hong Kong a high degree of autonomy. People in Hong Kong are entitled to the rights and freedoms under the Joint Declaration and Basic Law. Meanwhile, the United States condemned the sentencing of 7 pro-democracy leaders and called it politically motivated. It added that Beijing and Hong Kong authorities are targeting Hong Kongers for exercising protected rights and fundamental freedoms, including freedom of peaceful assembly and freedom of speech. On Friday, Hong Kong sentenced pro-democracy media figure Jimmy Lai to 14 months in prison after being found guilty of unauthorized assembly. He was one of several activists in the court who were earlier found guilty of charges relating to large pro-democracy demonstrations in 2019. The opponents of the military government in Myanmar under the banner of CRPH announced the formation of a National Unity Government (NUG) on Friday. The government will be headed by the deposed President U Win Myint as President and Aung San Suu Kyi as the State Councillor. The CRPH also announced the portfolios of other ministers of the government. The government includes the members of Parliament who were elected in the November 8th national elections last year, led by the National League of Democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Prasar Bharati special correspondent in Dhaka reports that people in several towns of Myanmar welcomed the formation of the NUG by clapping, lighting candles and signing revolutionary songs. The International Cooperation Minister of the Unity Government reportedly said that they are the democratically elected leaders of Myanmar. The leaders of the NUG said that they intended to form a federal army and were in talks with the ethnic minority forces in Myanmar. Meanwhile, protests continued in Myanmar even as 6 people were shot dead on Thursday at the Kani township in the Sagaing region. According to Irrawaddy, the killings happened during a shootout between the regime's security forces and a civilian protection group formed by anti-regime protesters. India's Foreign Secretary Mr. Harshvardhan Shringla has said that globalization must ensure the benefit of all. Delivering the concluding address at the Raisina Dialogue 2021, Mr. Shringla highlighted India's partnership with other countries over green energy and climate action.
It is apparent that we must all work together to solve the problems that we are confronted with. Globalization, our Prime Minister stated in his opening remarks, must benefit all and must be relevant to the problems of our time. The External Affairs Minister defined true commitment to globalization as actions that are equitable, actions that leave no one behind, and actions that are imbued with good. We note with appreciation in this context the remarks of His Excellency President Paul Kagame about India's vaccine production capacity and sense of solidarity. Her Excellency, the Prime Minister of Denmark, highlighted that we are on the brink of a green industrial revolution, a green transformation underpinned by initiatives such as the India-Denmark Green Strategic Partnership is very much in the realm of the possible. Secretary Kerry highlighted the potential of emerging technologies in tackling climate change and its causes and consequences. Experts spoke of the need for policies and actions that drive energy transitions and increased electricity generation, sustainable transport, and sustainable urbanization that preserve and rebuild natural assets, accelerate industrial and tech transformations, and build resilience.
Asserting that globalization and multilateralism is the reality of today's world, Mr. Shringala underlined the need to strengthen multilateralism.
The shortcomings of the current multilateral system laid bare by the pandemic evoked discussion. There is no retreat from multilateralism or globalization. Multilateralism needs to be strengthened. Where required, plurilateralism will play a complementary and supplementary role. New governance structures that address contemporary threats and non-traditional challenges will need to be created.
5 people were killed and more than 15 injured in police firing during a clash with workers at the under-construction Banchkhali powder plant in Chattogram district of Bangladesh on Saturday. The workers of the Banchkhali coal-fired power plant were agitating for payment of overdue salary, half-day work on Fridays, time for iftar and hike in salary. Prasar Bharati special correspondent in Dhaka reports that the injured have been taken to Chittagong Medical College Hospital. A few of the workers are in critical condition with bullet wounds. The contractor for the project is a Chinese company. Tension has been prevailing since Friday, reportedly over non-payment of workers' dues. The agitated workers allegedly indulged in arson and vandalism inside the plant when the management called the police. Altercation took place between the police and the workers, which escalated into a clash in which 5 workers were killed. 3 policemen were also injured, said the police officials. This is All India Radio, giving you the world news.
On Friday, India marked a milestone in its scientific endeavour in Antarctica with the return of the 40th scientific expedition to Antarctica in April 2021. A report.
The 40th Scientific Expedition to Antarctica, 40 ISEA, hosted by the Ministry of Earth Sciences, successfully returned to Cape Town on the 10th of April 2021 after completing a journey of about 12,000 nautical miles in 94 days, including stopovers. The 40 ISEA was on board the MV Vasily Golovnin, a chartered ice-class vessel. It made stopovers at Cape Town for picking up helicopters and replenishing fuel and provisions, and at the Indian research bases Bharti and Maitri for resupply and changeover of winter crew. The ocean observing systems deployed during the onward journey and retrieval during the return voyage will help to fill in gaps in information in the Indian Ocean sector of the Southern Ocean. After accomplishing several scientific objectives, changeover of winter crew and Bharti and Maitri's resupply, the 40 ISEA Indian contingent returned to Cape Town on the 10th of April. This achievement concludes 4 successful decades of India's scientific endeavour in the continent of peace and cooperation.
Veteran film actor and comedian Vivek passed away in Chennai on Saturday at the age of 59. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed grief over the demise of noted actor Vivek. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said his comic timing and intelligent dialogues entertained people. Prime Minister said both in his films and in life, his concern for the environment and society shone through. Born at Kovilapatti in Tuticorin district in 1961, he came to Chennai for joining as a government employee after passing through his postgraduate education at Madurai. A report from our correspondent.
Actor Vivek was a multifaceted personality who loved to act in theatre, films and was a musician too. His comedy was famous because it had a real content to think about. He made fun of superstitions and heavy topics which enlightened the masses. He was interested in social welfare activities and climate conservation. One of his famous dialogue was that life is to do something for the future and it would be meaningless if one doesn't plant even a single tree. He was attracted to the life and ideals of Dr. Abdul Kalam and followed him. He had thousands of youth in his movement of planting trees. His motive was to plant at least 1 million trees and he was partly successful in that. He won many accolades including Padma Shri for his contribution to film industry. The actor was aggrieved of his son in 2017 which did affect his life. But still he continued with his career by acting in films. He has acted in more than 200 films. Hollywood actors say that his death has created a great void which cannot be filled. His objective to protect the environment by planting trees will continue to inspire youngsters because he planted a tree on the day he vaccinated himself against COVID just a couple of days back. Joy, AIR News, Chennai.
And moving on to sports, in IPL cricket, chasing victory target of 151, Sunrisers Hyderabad were 119 for 5 in 16 overs against Mumbai Indians at M.A. Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai when reports last came in. Earlier, Mumbai Indians won the toss and elected to bat first and posted 150 for 5 in the stipulated 20 overs. Quinton de Kock scored 40 for Mumbai, while Mujibur Rahman and Vijay Shankar picked up 2 wickets each for Hyderabad. The Board of Control for Cricket in India, BCCI, has got the approval for visas for the Pakistan cricket team as well as the touring media for the upcoming T20 World Cup that is scheduled to begin in India in October this year. It was announced at the BCCI's Apex Council meeting on Friday. The BCCI has informed the Apex Council that the Indian government has agreed to issue visas to the Pakistan cricketers and the touring media for the T20 World Cup. And in the other sports news, India won 3 gold medals on Friday at the ongoing Asian Wrestling Championships in Almaty. Vinesh Phogat won her first gold in the Asian Championships, beating Meng Swan Shea of Taiwan in the 53 kg category final. Anshu Malik in the 57 kg and Divya Kakuran in 72 kg category won the respective finals as India entered the competition with 4 gold, 1 silver and 2 bronze medals. Indian tennis star Ankita Raina took a set-off 2017 French Open winner Latvia's Jelena Ostapenko before going down 6-2, 5-7, 7-5 in the opening match of the Billie Jean King World Cup group playoff tie last night. Raina lost the first set 6-2 to world number 52 but came back strongly to win the second and stretch the Latvian before going down 5-7 in the third. In the second tie, world number 621 Karman Kaur Tandi lost to her much superior world number 47 opponent Anastasia Sevastova 4-6, 0-6. And now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Washington Post writes members of Britain's royal family are gathering for the funeral of Prince Philip, husband of the Queen Elizabeth II and the longest-serving consort in the history of the monarchy. The Globe and the Mail writes royal family to wear masks as Prince Philip's funeral. Hymns will not be sung. South China Morning Post US-China tension raise risk of nuclear reactions to cyber attacks. The Globe and Mail writes former FedEx employee who killed 8 at Indianapolis facility was interviewed by FBI last year. And reporting on the Women's FA Cup, The Guardian writes that Kelly hits hat-trick as Manchester City thrash Aston Villa. And before we close, a look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds meeting to review the COVID-19 and vaccination situation in the country. Number of deaths worldwide due to COVID-19 pandemic surpasses 3 million. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar speaks to his Afghanistan counterpart Muhammad Hanif Atmar, says India will stand with the people of Afghanistan. US and Japan reaffirm commitment to work with Quad partners to ensure free and open Indo-Pacific. Raul Castro steps down as Cuban Communist Party chief, signals change in leadership to younger generation. And in IPL cricket, Mumbai Indians take on Sunrisers Hyderabad in Chennai. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnava Jan, by artists from France. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.